Hi, in this update, what we want to do is I want to run through what is known as in-market audiences and affinity audiences that you can use in Google Ads in order to be able to run more targeted advertisements using the display network. What it can enable you to do is it enables you to find out what type of things people who visit your website are searching for, in addition to your types of treatments. And you can also create what's known as audiences and so on based off if people are looking for your particular product and service, even if they haven't actually looked for your particular practice at this stage in their sort of buying journey. So what that might mean is that they may have visited some of your competitors' websites, but they haven't actually visited your website, and you can still specifically target those people using what's known as affinity audiences and in-market audiences and so on. Okay, so we're going to run through how to sort of go about setting those up. Now, first of all, what you need to do is in analytics, you need to look and see what types of interests and affinities and so on that people actually have that are coming to your website, because this is kind of the first step in your research to work out how you might be able to sort of cross-advertise and so on. So to do that, you go into your analytics account, you're going to go into audience, and then you're going to select interests. And what you should see is two segments there called affinity categories and in-market segments. Now, if you don't see that, you can do a quick search for Google Analytics, enable interest reporting, and what it says is you've got to sign into your analytics account. You go to the property settings tab within, so we've clicked on the admin section down the bottom here. Just going to expand this a little bit so you can see it a little bit more easily. Clicked on the admin section down here, and this has taken us to the admin area of this particular analytics account, and you're going to click on property settings, and what it says in the property settings is that there should be an option to turn on advertising features, so you just enable that. Now, I had a look in here, I can't actually see it. I think what's actually happened is we've enabled it and we can no longer see the option to turn it on, so there's not much use me actually showing it to you, but have a look in there and this is where you should see it. They do say that you do also need an active Google Ads account connected to your analytics account, and so you do this under the all products section here or via the Google Ads linking here under the property section, and you should be able to link your Google Ads account up with your analytics account, which you should have done anyway to make sure that you're getting proper crossing of information between the two accounts and so forth. Okay, so once you've got that enabled, it will need a little bit of time to sort of start building some data, and you can see that we sort of did this sort of late last month, and so we've only got about a month's worth of data here. But what you can see is that the people who come to our Icon Practice site are people that Google has worked out tend to be in the market for real estate and residential properties, which is interesting. And then they've also got in here that they're interested in travel, hotel accommodations, air travel, etc. Okay, and that gives you a sort of a breakdown of some of the things that they're interested in. Now, if you look under the user numbers here, you can see that it's only 3.75% of people are happen to be interested in this real estate residential properties. So it's actually a fairly poor correlation. So from my point of view, that's probably not particularly useful, okay, in terms of actually us creating ads and so on off this based upon using those people for targeting, because only less than 4% of the people that have visited us are also interested in these things. So you want to have a look at this and see whether you can get some higher percentage numbers. If you can get some higher percentage numbers in there, that's indicating that you do have some fairly close linkings between these people who are interested in this particular product type and your product as well. And so what you can then use is you can use that information within Google Ads to create some targeting, which we'll get into in a minute. You can also use this affinity categories, and this is going to tell you that people who are interested in your particular website are also interested in these types of categories. So we can see here that For us, they've pulled through that says that 3.8% of our users are also very avid news readers. 3.75% of our users are food or dining, cooking enthusiasts, 30-minute chefs. Okay, so, you know, if I had some fairly high numbers here, I might sort of say, well, okay, there's a very strong correlation between our users and people who are shopping or, you know, in these particular lifestyle categories or whatever. Okay, and I could then use those as the basis of audiences in my display network ad campaigns. Now, as you can see, none of these here have a particularly high correlation, so for us it's not particularly relevant. And you will need a certain amount of traffic coming to your website. And once you've had this running for some time, so when, you know, if you come back to this 6 months after having watched this video, you'll have 6 months worth of data, and you may find that you actually get a much better correlation. So make sure you set your date range to cover, as you know, a good chunk of time, sort of a good 6 months at least, if you've got that amount of data, and that will give you hopefully a good sort of breakdown as to what these other interests are that your website users have. Okay, so how do we then use this? How does this actually become useful to us when we're going ahead and we're setting up ads within Google Ads? So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our demo account here, and we're going to create a new campaign. So we're going to take that from scratch. So we're going to choose leads because we want to be getting leads. We've talked about sort of setting your objectives in the past, so I won't go too much into that now, but we're going to choose leads, and we're going to select a display network campaign for that, and we're going to go for standard display settings, and I'm going to link it into Icon Practice just to sort of keep it consistent, and then we click continue. Now, I'm not going to worry too much about these types of aspects here because, again, we go through those when we talk about how to set up display network campaigns. Under additional settings, I do just want to flag that they have changed this slightly in that the content exclusions are slightly different now, but you may want to look at this and say, well, you know, I don't want ads for my clinic showing up on the sites that are showing tragedy and conflict or sensitive social issues or sexually suggestive sites or things like that. I would also exclude things like mobile apps, and I would also exclude games as part of this, and you may also say I don't want to include park domains as well because that doesn't tend to be particularly high quality traffic, but certainly exclude mobile apps and games when you're actually setting up your display network campaigns. So that little aside finished with. Now what we need to do is we want to go down here and we want to look at these two options here. So we can use how they've interacted with our business. This is basically remarketing, but when you're looking at healthcare businesses, you're not able to use this. So if you've got a business which is separate from your healthcare practice, you can use it, but if you're advertising your health business, you can't. So we need to ignore that. What we want to look at here is what they're actively researching or planning. So these are in-market and what's known as custom intent audiences. And then below that we can see here what their interests and habits are. So let's do this one first because it's probably the easier one to do. And what I can do is I can go back and look at my categories here and say, well, okay, we've got news, politics, and avid news readers there. So I can find down here, I've got news and politics, and I can open this category further, and then I've got avid news readers. Okay, so you can see that I could choose these people to show my ads to on the basis that they're people who have visited my website. Now, like we talked about before, there's not a particularly strong correlation there because the percentage is quite low. But if I had, say, 50% of my users were also people who were very interested in news and politics and were avid news readers, then I would include those as a potential targeting option. There was also the travel aspects there. We had some people there that were interested in travel. Let's just double check. Oh no, I beg your pardon, that was under the in-market segment, so we won't worry about that. But you can see we can choose all sorts of different aspects there. Okay, now let's not worry about doing those, but if I wanted to, I would leave them there. Let's look at here in terms of what they're actively researching and planning, and this is probably the one that's going to be the most use for us when we're developing these ad campaigns using these types of things. So we've still got all the in-market audiences that we were just talking about a second ago. Okay, so you can still choose from these categories. But what you can also do is you can create this thing here called custom intent audience. And this is really the powerful stuff. Okay, now let's say, for example, I've got somebody who's interested, we're wanting to target people who are looking for treatment for sciatica. Okay, so what I might do in here is I might put, plus sciatica, and then I might put, plus sciatica plus treatment. So these are broad match modified keywords that we're putting in here. So you can go through and put in all the keywords that you would normally put in if you were creating a search campaign. And we won't go too much into that because, I've talked about how to do keyword research. I've talked about how to find those keywords and put them into your AdWords campaigns. So what you would do is you would just go and you would put all of those keywords in here and try and put as many as you can, as long as they're relevant to the particular target audience that you're going for, because it will help Google work out who to target. Now, the really cool thing about this is that what you can do is you can also go to Google and you can look and you can say, okay, I can search for sciatica treatment, and it's going to bring you up a list of people who are showing up, websites that are showing up around sciatica treatment, and things like competitors that might be present on that. So I'm not going to click on the ads because I don't want to cost these guys money. But let's say we go down to the organic results here. I've got mydoctor.com.au. Let's say that was a competitor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually copy that URL and I'm going to put it in here. And I'm going to enter it like that. Okay, so you can see that that's pretty cool. What I can do is I could also go and I could put a shorter URL in there, so that if I knew that anyone who had visited this mydoctor.com.au website on any of the pages, they are likely to be somebody that's interested in sciatica treatment, then I can put that in as well. And so you just need to be a little bit careful here. If you're using sites that have got a wide variety of information on it and you want to be quite specific, say in this case we're just looking for people who are interested in sciatica treatment, and this had stuff on, cervicogenic headaches and foot pain and, everything else, then you probably wouldn't want to put the very generic URL in. You'd want to put the very specific URL in. But if the whole site was pretty much about sciatica and sciatica treatment, then you would want to put that in, okay, and use that. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea about that. And so what you're going to do is you're going to go through and you're going to pull in as many of these as you can. Okay, you want at least 5 as you're putting them in, but you may want to go on and do more than that. Now you can see here that these guys have also got other ones here. There's sciatica symptoms, causes and diagnosis, so that certainly would be another page that I would want to put in there. And what you find is, because these URLs are on the first page of Google, they're sites that are likely to be getting quite a lot of traffic. Okay, so it's well worth going ahead and putting those in. I would also, and it's a bit of a pain for the people that are doing AdWords, but I would get the URLs for these AdWords ads as well, because they are likely to be getting quite a lot of traffic, seeing they're showing up as AdWords ads. And you may also find that on page 2 there's perhaps some of your competitors that are showing up. I mean, sciatica treatment's a very competitive keyword, so there's probably not going to be that many people showing up that are your direct competitors on the first page of Google, but you may well find that on the second and third page that they're showing up as well. You may also want to put people in, say if you're a chiropractor in Melbourne, you may want to put all the other chiropractors in Melbourne in there. Even if they're not sort of directly related as such, they may actually be useful as well to put those in there. You just sort of have to see, depending on what you were going after. Certainly if it was a more generic audience, people that were just after a particular type of treatment, say a particular profession or something, it would be worth putting in some of the more generic URLs. Okay, so that's how we go about creating these custom intent audiences, which, as you can see, you can really start to get access to people in a more granular fashion than what you were able to before. So then we just go ahead and we click create, and it's now going to use this sciatica custom intent audience here. And then you just go ahead and you would continue creating your ads as normal, and you just then click create campaign, and that is how you will have gone ahead and actually used these custom intent audiences, and potentially in market audiences as well if you've got sufficient data to create your display network campaigns. So as always, if you've got any questions, pop them in the forum. Be more than happy to help you out. Otherwise, we'll see you on our next video.